This episode of the Batify podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media, and please do subscribe. Enjoy. Welcome to the Batify podcast, where we talk about the Lord's doings and our journey and our life with Him and our relationship with Him and where we've seen Him in our lives. I'm Travis Creasy. Say hello, Ben Hayes.
How's it going? Ben Hayes here. Glad to be back with you guys. I know it's been we're happy to be back at it again. So,
Whitney.
Hey everybody, Whitney Creasy, Travis's wife. Glad to be back on the podcast. And it feels like it was a really long time ago since I recorded another one of these, but life.
So what we're going to do today is discuss our journey. Mainly Whitney will be answering questions and being interviewed by Ben about our foster parenting journey. And what we really want to do is be able to help other folks. And I guess number one, whether you're a foster parent or been through what we've been through, to realize that life happens. And we just believe that God is with us through those things and teaching us and speaking to us in different ways. And today we'll be sharing that. And I'm going to let Ben and Whitney kind of run that interview. So we'll turn it over to Ben with the first question.
All right. Well, again, glad to be back and doing this and with two of my favorite people on the planet, and a lot of good memories and good times with you guys. And so excited to hear a little bit more of y'all's story. Obviously, I know a lot of the story, but it's cool for me to be able to sort of see inside the mind of you guys as you went through some of the things that you go through. And I think it's been very helpful for some people. Obviously, Travis shared his story a couple of, a month ago or so with us. And now to kind of be able to see inside Whitney's story, kind of the rest of the story. So Whitney, tell us just a little bit about a season in your life, in your journey of faith, that's been kind of challenging for you.
Well, the main thing that we're talking about today is just the last couple years that we've been doing foster care. And we started in, it was late 2016. We started doing some classes to become foster parents, kind of like, I just remember like around my 30th birthday that year in 2016, I was like just kind of starting to be really convicted with just the way that my life was going, and that I was never really around anybody who didn't already know Jesus or have a relationship with Him. And, we work in a Christian school, and there are students and families there that don't have a relationship with the Lord, but they definitely all had opportunities to know Him, because they were constantly being presented with Jesus throughout their days in Bible class and everything that we do at school. And then Travis is also a minister, and so we're always doing things with our church, and it filled up our lives really. and we're just never around people who didn't already have some kind of relationship with God or know of him. And so foster care started to be a thing that would enter my mind, which was crazy because it was always something I said that I would never do, which lots of things that I said I would never do. God has changed that, and I have done or thinking about doing.
God has
But
a tendency
anyway,
to
it
do
would
that.
just be like I would hear radio commercials during Alabama football games about foster care. Different people would say things to me about, have y'all ever thought about fostering? And we decided to start those classes in the late part of 2016, and by early 2017 we were certified in the state of Tennessee and got our first placement in April. I'll say it's been a really hard road, but it's been a really good road, definitely a sanctifying road, which I guess that's probably all parenthood in general is sanctifying. But I've definitely felt like that in foster care, mostly just because I was not equipped at all to be a parent in my own strength. And I just really had to depend on God more during that time of becoming a parent, I guess.
Yeah, and from that time that you were hearing those commercials and all of that stuff was kind of starting to enter your mind to right now in July of 2019, a lot has really changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, a lot has changed. Yeah, life looks completely different. Life actually looks completely different from April 16th of 2017 to April 17th of 2017, which was when Haley and Daniel, their first placement. They're still with us. We have an adoption date coming up in a couple weeks for them.
That's a big congratulations.
But, yeah, I'm really excited about it becoming official with those two being our children and being part of our family. But it's also kind of like I guess maybe a bittersweet thing because I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be great, but at the same time, I can't help but remember and think about all the hard things that happened to get here. Because adoption is it wouldn't exist if bad things didn't happen. It wouldn't exist if the world wasn't a broken place. And while we're really, really excited about it, and I think the kids are looking forward to, they say, their name is going to match ours, Mom and Dad.
That's awesome.
It's also, I can't help but think about their mom and think about, what will that day feel like for her? And she's been awesome. We saw her last weekend and had an awesome time at the park and played with her and their half brother. And she's just been so kind and generous. And I've enjoyed getting to know her better here recently in the last few months. But I can't help but think what will that day feel like for her? Because there were a lot of things along her life path that were hard that brought her to the decision that she made, really. And while she is so kind and generous and tells me that she believes that she's done the right thing, I can't help but think, that might be a difficult day for her.
But and Whitney, I think that speaks so much to you and to Travis both of the kind of heart that you guys have for people and why you're so great at this parenting thing and why you're so great with the working with the school and with the kids and just so many things that you guys do, because I mean that tells me right there you guys have the heart of Christ, that you're going through a pretty challenging thing yourself. You've been going through a lot of challenging things. Those who've listened, to Travis's podcast about his challenges, you guys have been through that, but you've handled so much of this with grace. You've handled so much of it too with not just thinking about yourselves, but that's where I kind of think the mind of Christ, because, here you are going through a really exciting point in your life, and you're still thinking about what's this going to be for other people,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that's that's been a process with God in the last couple of years. Just, daily asking Him to just work on my heart in all of these life circumstances, and to give me the perspective of Jesus. And there's a song, it's an old song now. It's several years old. I don't know. It might be even like 10 years old. I think it's by Brandon Heath, but it's called "Give Me Your Eyes."
Oh yeah.
And he talked throughout it about give me your eyes so I can see. And throughout, I think the verses are like, he's seeing all of these different people and their circumstances, and he's asking God, to like help him have the perspective of Jesus on whatever's going on in that particular situation. And that's been a prayer a lot. And I have not done it perfectly, sometimes not even done it well. But there's a lot of grace and forgiveness and a whole lot of patience on God's part with me.
Well, I think one of the lines in that song is give me a heart for the brokenhearted, and that's such a powerful line. And of course that whole song is really powerful. And but yeah, I mean, I see that through you guys' life and through your story and through the challenges that you guys have had to face. And so just really have appreciated you guys through that. Don't know how many times I've said that to you, but I know that I'm not the only one. When you went through these things, how did you, and I guess you've already answered this on some level, but how did you really see God showing up for you during this stuff? Like, just really specifically, how did you see him showing up for you?
I mean, so many ways, just through people, first of all, with just all of the help that we had. I mean, the church, the Big C church, as a whole was huge in helping us get through those first few days. I mean, people were giving us baby beds and high chairs and clothes and babysitting until the kids could get in daycare, and all of these tangible things, that God provided through his people. But, more specifically, and I think probably the most life-changing way that God showed up was, I just really felt like I had a closer relationship with him, and that I could, communicate with him more throughout this time. I had to get to this point where I just knew that I couldn't make it through the day, and I didn't have what I needed in myself to do a good job in this role of foster parent, parenting these two little babies that were, they were scared. And rightly so, they had come away from anything that they had ever known. Their whole world was turned upside down. Everybody that they had ever known or trusted wasn't in their life at that point, and they had to get used to all of these new people. They had to get used to a new house and new surrounding, and neither one of them were able to talk yet, and so they couldn't even really verbalize or tell you what they were upset about or what was wrong. And so there was a lot of hard days with that, and I knew I had to make the space in my daily life to be in prayer and to read the Bible and just hear from God. And I heard Elizabeth Hasselbeck say this here recently, and I have loved the way she put it. But she talks about how all throughout her career she had to like be in the good news before she could read the hard news, and she calls that her white balance time. And a white balance, like if you've ever been in any kind of video industry, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll put up a white poster board or a white piece of paper in front of a camera lens before they start shooting, because white, what is it? Is it white reflects all light? Is that right? And black absorbs it. I can't remember exactly right. The science of it, but anyway, it's that, it helps the camera lens to be able to see and focus on what the colors that it's actually videoing are, so like reds look like red, and blues look like blue, and greens look like green.
It's like a reset button, sort of. Yeah.
It's like a reset button. And so she said that about her about how she would have to start her day with God. And I thought, that's like the best description of kind of the way I felt. And I had to start doing that. And I have to get up really early because babies get up really early. But I would get up really early and I would read, the Bible. And then I started this journaling practice. I'd never really been consistent with it before. And I always thought it was a good idea. But it got to the point where it's like my brain and my heart had to have it. And it was part prayer and, praise for who God is and thankfulness for, the things I had, but a whole lot of just confession about what I was struggling with and what I needed. I think that really, the biggest thing was help me like organize all this chaos that was just going on in my brain. It then helped me like give it up because I wasn't scared that I would forget in the craziness, like of all of the days that was going on, what I needed to be focused on. And it calmed down like my inner critic. I don't know if you're an Enneagram, if you know anything about Enneagram.
I hear people talk about it a lot, and honestly, I've not done a whole lot of it. So you can explain that if you want.
Well, I think I'm an Enneagram 1, and this Enneagram 1, the way that they describe them is that they have this constant inner critic, this voice in their brain that is constantly criticizing everything all day long. It talks all the time. And I think for the longest, I thought that was the Holy Spirit. And, it was not really until the last couple of years where I started to understand, like, no, that's not the way the Holy Spirit operates. Yeah. And I was able to, like that white balance time in the morning, I was able to, communicate with God and to pray and to read his word. I was better able throughout the day to discern, my inner critic voice from, what God truly says and what the Holy Spirit says. And so, throughout my life, throughout the days, I could see like the colors with the white balance, like this is,
yeah.
I could work through and I could really focus on what was important and what was not. And it was crazy because it was like, as far as what God did during that time, it was like you ask him for what you need and you ask him to meet you in those spaces, and then like he shows up. And there were so many times where it'd be like, man, I just really, really need something to encourage me throughout this day. I can remember one specific morning in like the daycare parking lot. I was so sleepy and I was so tired. And, I was dropping the kids off and I sat there before I headed to work and I had my phone, and just in the parking lot, I remember just kind of like this silent little prayer, like, God, I really need a word from you right now to get through this. I'm so tired. And I just, you know how you'll randomly flip open your actual physical Bible and just randomly go to something, or on the phone, you'll just kind of scroll with your finger and randomly hit something. Yeah. That's what I did. And I don't advocate doing that a lot, but that's what I did that morning, right after that little silent prayer to God. And I landed on Matthew 18. And it was in the first words I read were Jesus's words in red about, you know, whoever takes a little child in my name is, you know, doing something good in my name, whoever takes care of a child. And I was like, okay, all right, that was what I needed to hear.
Yeah, I love that concept, the white balance thing, and that's something I'm going to look at for myself, and I hope other people have, and I know other people will be challenged by that as they listen to this, of we need that be still and know that I'm God time, and I think that's a really cool way of looking at it, is, you know, kind of helping you get your focus and where you need to be, and I love it. So I hope that's a takeaway that several people get from it.
Just want to take a moment as we get ready to ask the final question to our guests to encourage you, if you are in the market or looking to create your own podcast, to look at Anchor. That's what we use. As you listen, you may be thinking, if these two guys can do it, then anybody can, and that's absolutely true with Anchor. The best part is it's free. There's plenty of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can also contact and have your guests on from different locations or right there in the room with you. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
I know we've had, this is, I guess, it's not really been a heavy session, but obviously talking about some heavier type things. So just a couple of fun things here. What's your most rewatched movie?
Travis hates this movie, but it's You've Got Mail.
I hate the movie. I fall asleep in the movie.
That was from when computers told you.
Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, and I watch that like almost every year at the beginning of the school year, and I don't really know why I get a hankering to watch that every year at the beginning of the school year. I think it's because like in one of their emails that they're sending back and forth, and it's like it's shots of them walking through New York City, you know, on their separate paths. But they're reading these emails that they're sending back and forth to each other. Tom Hanks says, don't you love New York in the fall? If I knew your name and address, I would send you a bouquet of newly sharpened pencils. And I'm always like, I guess it's always like the beginning of the school year. I think about that line. I just love that line in that movie. And so I always watch it about once a year at that time of year.
Kids that are listening to this, you can watch that movie and see this ancient thing called dial-up.
Yeah.
An AOL instant messenger.
That's,
if you want to blast from the past.
That's exactly right. And the little, I guess, I think I've seen the movie, but it's been a long time. But, you know, the whole dial-up thing where you hear the as it's trying to log you onto the internet, which you don't get to hear that great sound anymore.
Nope. You don't. I remember the days when you couldn't be on the phone at your house and use the internet at the same time.
That's exactly right. That's awesome. Or be on the phone, have to wait for the phone, somebody to get off of it so that you could call your boyfriend or girlfriend or family member or whoever it was too.
Exactly. And then you had to worry about like somebody picking up in another room and listening to what you're saying. Yeah. Kids don't get this. They don't understand this.
Yeah. I had speaking of New York, I was in New York. I had a flight coming back through. I think it was in 2000. I was with Wes Howell, and I called. Kenya had surgery that morning we were still dating, and she had her wisdom teeth removed. And I called, and Jerica answers the phone. She's pretty little at this point. And I said, can I talk to her? And of course, we don't have the cell phones. We don't have a way of, texting each other at that point. And so when I called, she's like, she's resting right now, and got off, and later realized she was talking on the phone to somebody else and didn't really want to get off the phone. And Kenya was pretty mad about that, I think, because, the one time I called and there was no way to, no way to send a text and go, hey, tell them to get off the phone, So I can remember that little story from long ago before the text messages entered into the world.
Yeah, it's funny stuff.
Appreciate everything that you guys do and have done and continue to do, and look forward to seeing how this story continues to play out, and excited about this date coming up and the party that will follow. So excited for you guys, and we'll be in prayer for you.
Thank you so much.
Well, Travis, any closing thoughts that you may have for us?
Well, we'll just be back in maybe a couple of weeks. I think that maybe next week we'll look at Getaway, maybe talk about Maywood and its impact on us.
Yeah.
And, but looking forward to having your story as well, Ben, next in the next few podcasts. And then, of course, we'll be looking for different people to interview and to ask these awesome questions about how God's shown up in their life. So if you listen to this and you have anybody that you think would be a great guest to have on our show, just be sure to find us on Facebook.com/Ben and Travis. That's all one word, Ben and Travis. Or you can follow us here on the Anchor app, and you can send us messages that way. We're also on Twitter, twitter.com/Ben and Travis. But Ben, I appreciate your time. I know that you got a lot of stuff going on, and Whitney, obviously, I appreciate you and the story that you shared, and I'm sure we'll revisit it again at some point. But if you guys are done, have nothing else, then we'll talk to you again soon.
That sounds good. See you next time.
Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Batify Podcast. Be sure to download the Ministry League app and get all of our sister podcasts, along with all sorts of great ministry material at facebook.com/Ministry League. Until next time, look for us at the same Batify time, same Batify channel.